All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. First off, thank you to everybody who is tuned in to our webinar. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to join. We will be discussing effective quality management. I'm your moderator, Nick Azad, and I'm joined today by two of my fellow Parsec colleagues, Corey Bodbarka, our manufacturing expert and resident Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, and Christopher Gray, our key applications engineer. As I mentioned, today we will be covering quality, the steps to optimizing quality and lowering the impact of poor quality. To quickly bring you up to speed on who Parsec is, we've been in business for over 30 years with a dedicated focus exclusively on developing manufacturing operations management software. You'll hear us abbreviate that MOM during this discussion. Our TrakSYS solution platform is designed to measurably help our customers without the needs for disruption and major infrastructure overhaul. TrakSYS has been deployed in thousands of locations in over 100 different countries. We've helped customers in a variety of industries from food and beverage to pharmaceuticals, CPG, and aerospace, just to name a few, to significantly improve their manufacturing operations. Today, again, we'll be focusing on quality. In advance of this webinar, we reached out to a handful of our customers to get a gauge on common issues around quality as well as topics of interest. To address that information, we will begin by discussing the challenges we heard, follow that up with a demonstration of how TrakSYS helps solve those issues, and then end with a Q&A session. So to start things off, I want to discuss this idea of making things as simple as possible. It's a philosophy that we talk about internally and in regards to our platform. When it comes to manufacturing operations, it seems that everyone agrees that skill disparities and a lack of standardization are major roadblocks. With that being said, how does the MOM platform utilize the as simple as possible methodology to enable workers? And are there things manufacturers can be doing now to shorten the time that it takes to bring people up to speed?
Yeah, Nick, finding skilled workers has become a real challenge for many manufacturers, whether it's large outbound flow of retirees, competitive wages, creating employee turnover, or something else, creating turnover in the organization. As well, there's a lot of shift in people becoming educated in white-collar jobs. And these are just some of the causes of why people have to have good training programs. So it's important to have a way to effectively guide and train employees on work standards, as well as manage the training, the ongoing training, to make sure that employees are utilizing best practices. Many companies with quality programs, they've compiled these large paper-based procedures, and they're often really not accessible. They're very inefficient, and sometimes they're just intimidating the workers, having to be put in front of this large booklet on how to get a job done. So TrakSYS can help manage documents and work instructions to standardize and enforce best practices in a more effective manner, providing easy accessibility to the user and providing them with relevant information at the time it's needed. Also providing visuals like pictures, videos that are much easier to understand. Many people are visual learners, and it's easier to follow these visuals versus having to read through a long paper document explaining the process. Jobs can also be defined with employee qualification requirements, so it's clear who's certified and authorized to do specific work in the workplace. With all this in place, training schedules can also be defined and managed with automatic notifications, so adequate skill resources are available when needed.
Excellent. So you and I were talking last week. I was under the impression that when it comes to quality, the goal of manufacturers should be to strive towards perfection. And then you brought up a point that I thought was interesting, which was to say that less than ideal quality is always going to show up in the manufacturing process. The goal should be not only limiting those occurrences, but also focusing on minimizing their impact. With that being the case, can you talk a bit more about how an MOM platform helps to minimize the cost and impact of poor quality?
Sure, Nick. Everybody really strives to have perfect quality, Six Sigma levels of quality. But the fact of the matter is most manufacturing organizations just really aren't there. They're, at a 3 to 4 Sigma level. And sometimes it costs money to, large investments to get to that higher level of quality. So with real-time systems, companies can manage inspection plans to minimize defects and prevent quality escapes. By using a system to enforce a robust control and inspection plan, errors can be caught more quickly, identified, communicated, and escalated. This ability to quickly contain problems will help minimize the impact on the cost of poor quality until a proper root cause, corrective action, and error proofing can be in place. So the power of a real-time system can really help lower those costs of poor quality.
Awesome. So from what I understand from our conversations, scrap, defects, and rework tend to be the main contributors to poor quality. Is it fair to say that getting a handle on those three key areas can help not only lessen the impact of poor quality, but also give you a sort of roadmap to follow as you work towards quality optimization?
Sure. Scrap, defects, and poor yield, not only are they bad quality issues, but they're often a very common cause for inventory inaccuracies that with those inaccuracies in your inventory system, then you start having delivery shortages, shop floor delays, and even additional costs to expedite materials in or wait on materials. So when properly capturing this, you can provide the priority as well as direction for teams to focus on improving the process and improving the product quality. By capturing product counts from automation, in just as few as 2 locations, we can capture information for good and bad product, as well as capture fault details from inline inspection equipment, as well as operator input to detail out what are the reasons for the bad quality. So you have an action plan going forward. With the progression of IIoT devices, adding counters like Parsec Smart Data Collection Kit allows you to retrofit equipment with wireless data collectors and counters in a quick and easy manner without the expense of large automation infrastructures. By collecting these defect counts, it not only provides a prioritized roadmap for improvement activities, but it also provides information that can be sent to your inventory management system to accurately update consumptions. So an MLM platform can undoubtedly supply a lot of very useful data, as evidenced by our conversation. A common problem that we hear is that production issues tend to take longer than necessary to resolve purely because the data that would give insight into root causes can be housed in multiple locations and possibly across multiple platforms, whether they're digital or handwritten. The data to solve problems, in this case regarding quality, is being captured somewhere, right? How does an MLM platform help manufacturers aggregate and make use of the data that is being generated on the shop floor? Yeah, it's very common that in most factories, data is spread throughout various systems. And quality departments often rely heavily on paper-based systems, which are slow to be updated, compiled, and reviewed. So a quality department, they may rely on document control systems, LIMS systems, SPC systems, data historian, calibration tracking, the list goes on and on and on. There's lots of systems that house data in most manufacturing organizations. And most people have been focused on various point solutions that aren't really bringing all that information together. So as a result, the data is very fragmented. And when quality issues occur, data needs to be compiled in a manner that's even related. So when you're solving a quality problem, it's just like a detective who has to uncover clues in a crime. You got to compile the data from various systems, and this allows you to really start connecting the dots on what the problem is. So to better understand the root causes and solve your problems, having comprehensive data is going to allow you to solve your problems more quickly and much more effectively.
Excellent. Well, those are all my questions so far. Thank you, Corey. That was a lot of great information. I think I definitely learned a few takeaways. So now we're going to shift gears and take a look at the TrakSYS platform and the variety of tools you have access to when it comes to quality optimization. To guide us on our tour, I'm going to turn things over to our brilliant applications engineer, Christopher Gray.
Thank you, Nick. Before we hop into a demonstration, I'm going to give a brief overview of how an MLM system is structured in terms of an architecture. We're going to be looking specifically at our TrakSYS platform. So as you can see, the platform sits in the center, and it's intended to be that system in the middle that can provide a brain at the heart of your operation. It's going to allow us to pull in information from a variety of different sources. At the bottom, you can see there's things like your receiving, testing, packaging, and shipping areas. That typically has a lot of automation and a lot of data of the real-time aspects of your environment. We're going to tap into that information using things like PLCs and OPC to be able to pull that in and evaluate in real time how your actual factory is functioning. On the side, you can see business applications. That's going to consist of things like your other disparate systems, those ERPs, your quality and maintenance, all these systems that house a lot of information that don't necessarily talk to one another. TrakSYS can sit in the center and communicate to them via things like standard APIs and other data files and intermediary tables to allow them to pass information to us and ensure that accurate information gets back to the systems that need it most. Not only are we going to collect that real-time automation data, but we're also going to provide a way to fill in the gaps that your other systems may have and augment them to ensure that they're being used to their fullest capabilities. And then, of course, there's also the web browser portion, so where operators and users can manually interact and view the data. TrakSYS itself supports any web browser. It is HTML5, CSS3, etc. So you'll be able to get the information when you want, when you need it, on any device and at any time. This is going to put at the center of the operation a real-time, data-driven platform that can help you to improve your quality in all the different ways that were just discussed. You can view it on a tablet, on a phone, on any type of client that you need to be able to track your information, track your quality in real time, and see defects, where they come from and their sources, and to see how Kappa tasks are being completed to be able to address those and take our actionable data to the next level. Now, with all that in mind, we're going to hop over to the demonstration now, where I'm going to show you guys an example of an implementation where we can address quality. We're going to be looking at this from a couple of perspectives. The first thing I'm going to show is an operator-based view, where we're going to be able to see how someone may go about collecting some of the data and seeing that data in real time immediately as it occurs. Then we'll take a step back, looking at it from a more trending perspective, more short-term trends, a supervisor-type view where we can look for flags of things that we may need to address that have occurred recently, before taking one more step backwards and taking an overall big picture view of it, looking at jobs that may have occurred in the past, drilling down into a lot of the information and looking at the details that occur. Now, just looking at this first screen, you can already tell that this is clearly not purely a quality-based screen. As an MLM system, it does encompass a lot of other functionality outside of quality. For today, we're going to be focusing upon the quality aspect that we'll see in the screen, although you will see a lot of other solutions also incorporated. So to start off, in this packaging screen here, we're looking at the operator perspective. We're checking out things like the OEE values, what our downtimes are, but from a quality perspective, the important parts are going to be the aptly named quality gauge in the bottom, as well as some tasks on the right-hand side. This quality gauge is just a quick shout out to the automation portion that we're already gathering. As you gather products and as they go through your line, we can track the quality, good and bad, and be able to identify it and create a simple metric for you. Now, a little bit more interesting is going to be the task portion, the non-automated parts of it. As the production run continues, you're going to want operators to be able to provide feedback of things that you can't do through automation. Things like a quality control check, where you can check a lot of information, a lot of other types of criteria besides simple good and bad, or you can check a lot of other solutions also incorporated. So to start off, in this packaging screen here, we're looking at the operator perspective. We're checking out things like the OEE values, what our downtimes are, but from a quality perspective, the important parts are going to be the aptly named quality gauge in the bottom, as well as some tasks on the right-hand side. This quality gauge is just a quick shout out to the automation portion that we're already gathering. As you gather products and as they go through your line, we can track the quality, good and bad, and be able to identify it and create a simple metric for you. Now, a little bit more interesting is going to be the task portion, the non-automated or things like HACCP checks, fill weights, and inspections. Let's take a look at two examples. First, we're going to take a look at the quality one. In this quality check, you can see we're providing a couple different things. First, context. So we're going to be recording all this quality information against a lot of criteria like the system, the shift, the job, and the product, which will make it extremely valuable later on for reporting. We're showing basic inputs that we want the operators to complete, things like basic checks, actual weights of weight and vacuum in this case, and then information about the user and potential notes of things they might need to record relevant to the check. I'm also providing instructions, how to actually complete a check with reference documentation as necessary. Put this all together, you have a very simple or user-friendly interface that you can use to record data that is typically done on a piece of paper. However, with this information can be used to feed other types of evaluation within the system. To give one more example, I'm going to hit cancel and go back, and we're just going to look at the hourly HACCP check. Similar example, similar checks, more instruction, the same exact look and feel for any type of form that you may have in your plant floor, all the way down to providing an actual SOP, an actual document for them to reference, so operators always know how to complete the check, and they always have the resources they need to ensure that the data you're collecting is of good quality. That's from an operator-based perspective. This is going to handle a lot of the data gathering as well as the immediate data needs of things like your current quality. But of course, you're going to need to be able to do some more training with this. So we're going to take that first step back, and we're going to look at this from a more reporting perspective of quality from a supervisor's look. Now, this is a screen that is designed around quality specifically, and I like to call this a one-shot screen. You have one screen that's going to bring all this information to you based on flags that you've identified as important. As Corey mentioned, you kind of have to be a detective. You have to go through, find all this information from all these systems, dig down, and find issues that are occurring with your production. This type of screen is designed to take all those and bring those clues to the forefront, so you're doing less digging, doing more action. You can see on the left-hand side, starting with these sections here, we're looking still towards more of the automation. There's my quality gauge again, but now it's being evaluated as bottles loss, effective time, and material loss. We can see the quality from the past couple of jobs in case there's any type of trending. And we're also displaying that automated gathering of reject distribution. So we can see the actual quality, what was causing those losses, and see if there's anything that seems out of the ordinary. In this case, I can even tell my caser, this big blue section, has a disproportionate size, so perhaps I want to go look into it. Once again, being detective, finding all those different clues, this one's already brought directly to my attention. Of course, with all this data, there is a lot of other layers that go with it. For example, this gives me a starting point, and I can very easily drill into that data further using a lot of the other built-in reports, such as this quality report to show those distributions of defects as well. We are going to be sticking towards this quality screen though, because as mentioned, it is MLM. There's a lot of other capabilities, but today this is going to be our main topic of quality. Back to this screen, on the right-hand side, you can also see a lot of the non-automated gathering. So thinking back to those tasks that we had a second ago, if you recall the quality control one, it was asking for a couple measures, a couple checks, and some notes. That information that an operator puts in gets fed into things like these charts here. We can see quality log entries. As those tasks are collected, we can take the information that operators are saying, the notes they're leaving, and present them based upon their use. So in that case, that was a QC check. We have all these quality control logs that we can read and see what operators are saying in real time, not just what's on the form. No longer do you have to write information on a small piece of paper that gets filed away. It becomes actionable, usable data. The information for things like the PSI checks, the vacuums, the fill weights, we can run SPC against them. You can see in this case, I have all my SPC values, and we're doing some basic rule evaluations. As these rules are violated, you see them in real time, you see them pop up, you can take actions against them immediately. Not just on a form, you have immediate notification of when something violates and when you need to go and take a check at the line. And additionally, on the right-hand side, we're seeing some immediate causes, things like failed tasks and overdue tasks. So as a check fails, as half a check fails and causes a red point, or as an overdue task occurs, someone that hasn't completed their checks, you can see them here and know if you need to address it. So this is a nice one-shot screen, taking all that information from those operator perspectives and presenting it in a way that allows you to do training and analysis to find causes, to have them brought to your attention so you don't have to go digging for it. Now, alongside of this, of course, there's a lot of other information and context, as mentioned. So you can view all this information in various other SPC reports. We can provide other indices. There's other ways that you can go and split the data. There's also parameter tracking for things like historian, where you can see values as they change over time. And as with everything else, this software is very flexible. You can incorporate any of this additional information into your screens as necessary. It's just going to be my interpretation of how I decided that I wanted to address quality. How you do it is likely going to be a bit different. Take another step back. We're looking at the packaging area. This is still looking at the specific packaging in mind, but of course we need to be able to track quality from the beginning of the process all the way to the end, not just on the packaging, but looking through all the batching and tableting information. So I'm going to hop over and we're going to look at this quality section here. We're going to be able to track an EVR, look at some CAPA forms, and also go through the lodging of complaints. So to start off, we're going to start with the complaint portion to it. Regardless of how good your quality is, no one's going to have perfection. You can't have every single model be accurate. Of course, you want to catch as many of them as you can before they leave, but regardless of how well you do, you're still eventually most likely going to have a complaint. So this system can allow you to track those complaints. Whether or not the complaints are valid is another story. If you have great quality, hopefully all your product's good and you're just being a little nitpicky, but you still want to be able to track it and ensure that you have accurate loggings and records. In this case, we're asking to submit a form. We're going to say, tell us what job someone's complaining about. Tell us the category for why that complaint happened. Give us some information about when, who, and how many it affects, and the actual complaint record itself. Just like with the tasking forms, this is a simple interactive form that allows you to collect the data, and then we can report on it later. In this case, I have a bunch of other previous complaints that are already listed and lodged. Now, once all these complaints are listed, I can go ahead and report against them and see if there's any trends that can be turned into something actionable. If I go to the review section over here, here's all those complaints, but now in some chart formats. I'm able to see which jobs have the most complaints, if a certain product or a certain day or reason ends up being the biggest concern. Looking at this, the first three charts don't seem to provide me much. There's a lot on one day that's still a little hard to check. But I can also check complaints by reason. In this, you can see packaging, illegible, label, and print. That is by far the biggest reason for my complaints, consisting of about 90% of it. And I can see there's 5 different ones that are listed here. So this gives me an immediate way to know something I may need to check on. In fact, I'm going to use this for my example in a moment. We're going to be looking at this job here where we have the most complaints, 20 units worth, of job 3623. Going over to the EVR, let's take a look at that job in particular. For the EVR portion, we're able to load up any job that we have records of. That's a 4, 3623. Hit load, and you can see it identified. That is in fact a job that I have listed. Now that I've loaded the job, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the data. I'm going to start with overview here. Just like with the other reports, these are just the specific fields that I deemed valuable to show in mine. Of course, there is all that additional context, and this can be adjusted to your individual needs. But for me, I decided for a given job, I want to track the 3 steps of the process: batching, tableting, and packaging. Track the actual batches, KPIs, materials, and tasks. Now, I'm not even tracking everything. My implementation didn't need to track every single individual aspect of it on every job, but you can see the ones that do have records. I can easily expand it to collect the rest if I deem that necessary as well, but for now, this gets me the information I need. Now, if you think back to the complaints, we are looking at this one specifically because we had a lot of issues with the labels. So for this example, we're going to check out packaging, where the labels are applied, and we're going to look at the material consumption. You can even see there's actually one alternate. It's already trying to flag me for something. So let's take a look. As I click on materials, there's my 3 groups again with all the material consumption records. And you can see there's that one flag that I had. Now, in my case, this is a flag because it's an alternate. Typically, we don't use from the alternate vendor, but there must have been a case to use it for today. But that can very easily be the cause and reason for my labels having some type of issues. Without even having to go farther, I already have a reasonable root cause for why I was having so many complaints and perhaps defects on that line. I can already take actions for it. But I can also go farther in steps with this because even outside the quality, this does link to other types of reports. We do have track and trace capabilities. I can see, I can trace this, see where it was used. I can even see it was consumed twice on 2 separate jobs. And I can also see it was actually spoiled. We got rid of about half the lot. So there's clearly some issue. And in fact, I may want to go take a look at that other job that consumed it, because they might be finding themselves with some complaints soon as well. This is going to allow me to go through a lot of data acquisition, a lot of drilling down through it to find root causes. All of that based upon these specific records. Now, to go one step farther, we've gone through complaints, we've seen some issues, we've seen what's happened, we've gone through the record to find some root causes. Last thing we want to do is we definitely want to take some action to finish it off and to make sure that something happens and it doesn't happen again. So looking at CAPA forms, I actually have a couple that are already here. But these forms are going to allow you to go and identify, just like with the other tasks, a bunch of context that you can then later report against. I can say, here's my CAPA. I'm going to have a reference number that's automatically generated. When does it start? When does it end? What are we trying to fix? And what was the actual cause? So pretty straightforward. Simply identify what the problem was. In this case, this is the complaints from vendor B. Identify the root cause. We can identify perhaps it was a bad loss and we went back to the vendor and got some kind of credit, got it fixed, got it recalled, whatever becomes necessary. And then we can resolve this and save it when it's completed. And as with everything else, this type of information, of course, is going to have to go on other screens. It's going to have to be brought to people's attention. For this specific task, I've opted to use TrakSYS alerts. So as I hit save over here, you'll actually see in that top right corner, I have this little bell. So I've opted to do it as an alert inside of our browser. You can have this sent as an email, as a text, or anything else you want, but can ensure that when changes are made, everyone's alerted, everyone's on the same page at the same time with the same data. For mine, this simple alert is just going to tell me the CAPA was updated. In this case, I'm logged in as an admin, so admin has updated the CAPA form. Here's the details in case it changed. And I can click here to go back to the form as necessary. That's going to close my full loop. We've looked at it from a packaging perspective, starting out with an operator over here, collecting all the data, seeing that real-time information. We looked at it from a supervisor perspective, being able to see how that data gets fed into these other pages where you can do simple training and analysis. And we've also looked at it from a full quality perspective, being able to use complaints to find problem jobs and view their detailed information, as well as being able to complete CAPA forms to be able to go through and address those issues as we go. To hop back to PowerPoint real quick, that is once again just the quality portion. TrakSYS itself is a full MOM software. We were looking at just this one portion, but you should have been able to see that there's a lot of other things that are integrated into it, even for just a small example of that inventory track and trace portion. But there are maintenance, workflow, compliance, and everything else that you could possibly need. With that, I'm going to wrap up and hand it back over to Nick.
Awesome. Very much. Thank you, Christopher. Always super cool to see you go through the software and see how easily it can be navigated and the vast amounts of information that can be at your fingertips. We're now at the point where we want to open up the conversation and address your questions. So please feel free to write in your questions or comments, and we will do our best to answer as many as we can. All right, so it looks like one of the first questions that has come in, can TrakSYS support compliance for 21 CFR Part 11?
Yeah, so I'll take that one. For TrakSYS in 21 CFR Part 11, we are compliant. We do have the capability to take all electronic records necessary, as well as do verification of users. So every single change that happens, whether it be on something you're configuring or screens you're building or anything else, you do have the capability to track every single change all the way down to the individual item level that was changed.
Excellent. Next question we got. Pardon me. Can TrakSYS help with reducing product giveaway in my filling operations?
So yeah, there's some great applications in TrakSYS for controlling product giveaway as well as demonstrating label claims for consumer product goods. The data historian has the ability to connect to things like inline weigh scale systems to capture that information associated with the lot to make sure that you're representing that you're meeting the stated label quantities. as well to manage the product giveaway. So utilizing SPC to understand what your process distribution is on your filling operations, and then adjust those processes to meet the label claims, but minimize how much you're exceeding on the fill operation. So SPC and data historian can help on both of those.
Excellent. We got another question rolling in. How do you deal with risk management? No, sorry.
So the next question is around, can you show product recipe management? Chris, maybe you can jump into the batching section and show a little bit of this.
Give me 1 second to get over to a different screen for you. So we do have the capability to do recipe management within TrakSYS. Of course, the more that you want to be able to do it in other systems, we can always synchronize with them. So this is only as much as you find necessary for your actual recipe itself. But you can identify products within TrakSYS. For every single one of these, you're able to identify individual steps that they're supposed to go, oh, whoops, wrong product. Let me get to the correct one. Batching, there we go. This is a batching recipe, so that makes a lot more sense. You can identify for each individual recipe what you want to be able to produce. You can identify individual steps that go with them, the order that it's supposed to occur in, as well as the sequence and the durations, as well as various parameters that go with each step as well. You can see there's parameter definitions that go with both the recipe as well as the step. This allows you to do some nice integrations with batch execution systems, or to use this as one, to feed back to automation to say certain parameters need to be at certain values at certain points in the process, giving you full batch execution capability.
We got a question up here. Are you able to tailor quality dashboards?
Oh, yes, most definitely. So looking back, I'm going to hop back over to that first quality one we saw, the quality summary. As mentioned, all the information on here are flags that I've identified that I want. All the information is in the database already, so it's just a matter of determining what you want to show on the screens. Now, we do have a lot of very standard ways that we show it, so things like these gauges and distribution and SPC are very easy to add in any configuration for any data that you would like. But there's also the layer underneath that allows you to configure this pretty extensively if there's something very specific that you need. So hopefully you like what we got out of the box for you, but you got a lot of options.
So we have a question, is there any company in Brazil using such tools?
So yeah, we have customers all around the world, and there's certainly some in Brazil that we can potentially connect you with. We'll reach out to you to learn a little bit more about your business and what you're looking to benchmark and what type of business you have, so we can match you up. So that would be we'll certainly follow up with you to discuss that.
Excellent. All right, so that's about all the time we have for questions. Thank you to everyone who has attended our webinar and stayed with us through the end. We appreciate your time and hope that what we shared was helpful. Any questions that we didn't answer will get answered via email, and we will send the answers out to the entire group. This presentation will also be available online shortly. Thanks again, and we look forward to hosting you during next month's webinar. Take care.